That reminds me of the leaks that are coming out of Anthropic right now, that the next AI model will be powerful enough to break all sorts of cybersecurity things. And that we should be
That's
prepared.
different. So yeah, that's because a lot of the times these models are able to develop exploits and find vulnerabilities, but these aren't the sort of vulnerabilities that are found because of a quantum computer. So AI, especially, especially Anthropic, like Claude Opus and stuff like that, is really good at looking at code and finding vulnerabilities. And that has been really interesting to see. I think it'll change the way that vulnerability development happens and security assessment happens permanently, forever. It'll completely change the game. And this doesn't necessarily, however, translate to a better ability to think about designing primitives and designing cryptographic systems, especially when it relates to unusual real-world constraints. So I can't really go into detail because of NDAs, but I'd like to give you a very general example. Recently, today, this week actually, and the week before, I've been working on a new cryptographic design for a client, and that client works in the manufacturing and production of something that you wouldn't think needs cryptography or uses cryptography, but it turns out there's a very good use case for cryptography there. And I think in that case, for creative design elements of new cryptography for new use cases, AI doesn't do a good job because there isn't a lot of pre-existing sort of material for it to analyze and accumulate into an understanding of what it means to work in that context. But when it comes to exploit development, the AI already has access to all the code on GitHub and all the exploits ever written by humankind since the 80s. And so it's able to infer better. It has a better inference capability and is able to generate new exploits based on source code and instructions regarding the exploit scenarios.
Yeah, I was mentioning this because it's not the same scenario because it doesn't break a fundamental principle, but it's a claim coming out of a company or out of a leak that sort of you have to decide how serious to take it, like the Google quantum computing claim. So
I think we should be taking it very seriously because the problem is that I, as a human, or you, or Jade, if we're tasked with developing exploits, we need to spend time and attention developing exploits, and we can potentially develop exploits. The problem with, and even if we can develop exploits, roughly we can maybe develop them just as well as Claude can, and maybe Claude can do it slightly better. But the problem is that Claude never gets tired. That's the issue. So if you are the Chinese army, you can basically develop your basically equivalent to Claude. I don't think they're allowed to use Claude right now. And you can tell it to spend a month, 24/7, working on finding exploits in foreign military targets. And it'll do a great job. It'll be as competent as an elite exploit developer, and it never gets tired. And it does it for cheaper. So that is a new type of weapon. So that is actually a munition. And that's a different way to look at it. But it just only means that, good for Oak Security, right? Good for us. We get more work because we need to patch all those systems. Wow. It's a great way to scare people into hiring us, I suppose. Kidding. Yeah. Not my intent. Yeah.
It's a good point. It's like an arms race, right? Like these type of weapons become more useful for the defender as well, in a sense.
Yeah. But, from the defense aspect, I think we're still at a bit of a disadvantage because from the defense aspect, you're designing new novel schemes in order to mitigate for threats, not just finding bugs. The LLMs are way better at finding attacks than designing secure systems.